This is a range and line of product and a topic that a lot of people have been asking and waiting for my opinion on, and it is finally here. We're going to talk about Nerf Elite Jr. from the perspective of someone, that's me, who's both a Nerf hobbyist and a parent. Hello friends, I'm KT, this is Family Foam Sport, and when the Nerf Elite Jr. line was announced, I was pretty excited just to know that Hasbro was looking at this age group as a relation to this hobby. And I should caveat this with my approach to age limits as they appear on boxes. The vast majority of Nerf blasters in the main line, either Elite or licensed products, have an 8+ age rating on them. The Elite Junior line has a 6+ age rating on them, but generally speaking, I take age recommendations on toys and subtract 2. But I think in this particular case, it's actually really important that you think about these toys as a 4 or 5-year-old would approach them, not as a 6-year-old would approach them. And thinking about it in that context, I was really excited as soon as I saw these. I think that the potential was really high. In fact, I said, I'm really impressed with this line. They just work really well, and they fit kids' hands perfectly. Yeah, I just think they knocked it out of the park. So that was a number of weeks ago, and I've had these around, and I've been letting my kids play with them, and I've had other kids over to play with them, and I've had younger kids over to play with them, and they've really been passed around and gone through the ringer. So after all that time, did those opinions hold up? That's what we're going to find out today. Now, although I will tell you what my favorite blasters are from the line, this is not a review video of any individual Nerf Elite Jr. blasters. For those, you should look to my 1-minute reviews. I will have individual 1-minute reviews coming out on each blaster or blaster pack over the next few weeks. Do please sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel. That way you'll know as soon as those reviews come out and you can catch them as they appear. So we're going to take a look at the Elite Junior line and the Elite Junior concept, and I'm going to break it down like this. We're going to talk about the features of the blasters, including their ergonomics. We're going to look at the performance of the blasters and how that mixes with the play styles that I usually experience with younger kids. And we're also going to look at the inclusions. We're going to look at the things other than the blaster that are included with the blasters, which are a really big part of bringing a toy like this into a home setting. So first up, features. Now, in the world of foam flinging, there are many different types of blasters with a lot of different loading mechanisms. We have magazines, we have drums, we have rotating cylinders. Every single Elite Junior blaster is a front-loading blaster. You simply stick darts in the front barrels. The reasons for this are obvious. It is the easiest way to load blasters by far. Now, I've heard from a few people about issues firing, particularly the Scout Fire and the Explorer. I had a discovery that you really do need to make an effort to push the darts all the way in to make sure that they'll fire successfully. Because I was having a few firing issues, not actually with the Explorer, which is the one I've heard about the most, but with one of the other dual shot ones. And my kids are actually the ones that noticed that if you really push the darts in all the way, they perform a lot better. The one issue I do encounter with the Explorer, this is the only blaster in the series with a 4-dart Smart AR. The top barrel is the last one in there, and so it receives the least power, and it's the most likely to stick. But again, if you really push the darts in there good and solid, it generally fires. Now, I'm not super in love with needing that level of attention to a small kid who's trying to play with a toy like this. It's very easy to not be meticulous about pushing the dart all the way in. So that is definitely a mark down on these blasters, even though I do think the front loading is a really good idea. Moving on to ergonomics, they are very much geared towards small hands. Every single one of them has a priming mechanism that's easy to grab with a few fingers. There's about an even split between two different types of priming mechanisms. One is a direct prime, big handle on the back that you pull and release with multiple fingers. And the other half have these adorable little pump grips that have a short draw that's quite easy to use. They also have small grips. In my experience, these fit a wide variety of kids' hands, again, all the way down to age 4. But I find them usable as an adult, which is great because I definitely will wind up picking my kids' toys up to play with them on a regular basis. They're designed with these oversized triggers that effectively fit 2 kid fingers on them. The entire series has essentially the same grip on it. Every blaster also has some variety of a lens-free optic. I do think on the Rambler and the Voyager they made a conscious decision not to put clear plastic in these. It makes them easier to look through. I wish that they'd do that on all their blasters, honestly. But clear plastic is usually more brittle, and I think it avoids the possibility of the clear plastic breaking and becoming a cut hazard. Also of note, yes, on the packages, these are not called scopes, they're called aimers. I'm not sure why the word aimer is more accessible to a younger audience than the word scope, but sure. All of the blasters in this line are low capacity. They're either single shot or double shot, with the one Explorer being the 4-shot Smart AR, and as we saw, it has a little bit of more finickiness than the other blasters, so that may not have been the best choice. The one exception, of course, is the Rambler, which has an automatically advancing 8-shot cylinder. Now, there's nothing wrong with having low-capacity blasters. They are extremely simple to use. Even the Rambler with its 8 shots can be a little tough for kids to keep track of how many of their shots have already been fired without constantly looking at the front of their blaster, which is not really something we want to train them to do. But I think there was a huge missed opportunity here, and only the Flyer got it right. The Flyer has dart storage. I'm frequently running around with low capacity or single shot blasters with a handful of darts and popping them in, and putting a line of darts in line with where you're trying to put it is such a comfortable setup. I really think that not putting dart storage on any of the other blasters is a huge missed opportunity. Also, something extremely unexpected, almost every single blaster has a sling mount of some kind or another on it. Just the inclusion of that tiny little feature makes an old shoestring part of your playset. One thing I'm really glad they didn't do is putting handles on the top of the blaster. I have never seen a kid use a handle on a blaster and carry it around like a bag. Nobody uses these handles, so thank you for leaving that out of the design. So my overall assessment of the feature set on these blasters, specifically for the 4 to 5 to 6 age group, is quite positive. I think they really got the ergonomics right. I think that they picked the right loading mechanisms in general. So now let's move on to performance. Now, the short version of this, for the hobbyists out there who know what I'm talking about, these blasters essentially have end strike performance. I didn't even take the price sticker off of this. I think this was half off. I don't know that I would have paid $5. For those who don't know what I mean by that, before we had Nerf Elite, we had Nerf End Strike. Nerf Elite was essentially an evolution of that, where they switched from what's called a reverse plunger system to a direct plunger system, which significantly increased both the stock power and the mod possibilities of those blasters. So without any modifications, in relatively new condition, a blaster like this, the Maverick, is going to shoot anywhere between 50 to 65 feet per second. Heading into the Elite era, the Maverick was eventually retired in lieu of the Strong Arm and eventually the Disruptor, which is essentially the same blaster, but this shoots closer to 70 feet per second. And that difference between like a 60 average and a 70 average is a significant one in terms of the feeling of a dart hitting your body, especially at a short range, and especially if you are a kid. In my experience so far, the power coming out of these blasters is just about enough to cross a living room. And even though the FPS numbers, the feet per second, is relatively low compared to what we're used to with modern day blasters, I find that this is a little bit wibbly wobbly, and I don't have science behind this, but they feel like maybe because of the direct plunger system tuned to a lower number, they have a little bit more punch behind them. They're not moving harder, but they have more oomph. I mean, a lot of this is probably just that all the end strike blasters are older, they've been through a lot of stuff, and so they're just sort of not at their prime. Was that a pun? I didn't mean that as a pun. I guess technically it's a pun. I am a dad, so okay. I find that with Elite Junior blasters playing indoors, I feel like I can actually hit things and people across the room. And most importantly, I'm not afraid to hit them. I'm not afraid to hit smaller kids. And I found that even with kids who previously were nervous and anxious about playing Nerf, once they understood how much gentler the play was with these toys, they got interested. So on the performance front, I'm very happy with this line. I think that they hit the nail on the head in terms of the numbers that we needed and the pairing of the sizing for this age group with this power level. And now we move on to the final category I want to talk about, which is inclusions. This is something that's not really important with an Elite blaster most of the time. Older kids are going to set up plastic cups if they want to knock something over. But it really is great for kids this age to get a box that is a complete playset that even on their own, they have something exciting to do with it right away. Most of these blasters come in packs that come with breakaway targets. They have little point values written on them, and when they get hit and knocked over, they break into two. You can also set them up only as half targets. They'll stand up this way as well. Possibly even more importantly, pretty much every blaster comes with more ammo than it needs to fill it up. This has been a huge point of complaint, particularly with Hasbro for quite a while, especially with all these blasters where they give you color matched darts to the blaster. They only give you the exact amount you need to fill the blaster. Sometimes not even enough to fill the storage on the blaster, but with this set aimed at little kids, they really got it. They put, in some cases, double the amount of darts that you would expect. So that is a huge thumbs up from me. So what are my final impressions of this series? Quick reminder again, we are looking at an age claim reduced by 2. I am looking at these from the perspective of a parent of a 4-year-old to someone a little bit older. I'm also experiencing this with some kids who are a little bit older who are anxious about Nerf and who simply find this to be a lighter play style. And we talked about how the performance on these is similar to older blasters, N-Strike blasters. N-Strike blasters, you have to thrift them, you have to find them. Fingers crossed that they work. They may not work well, they may not work consistently, they may break easily. These translucent plastics in particular have a real tendency to break apart. So there's plenty of reasons to want this new product over an older product. Now I will tell you what my favorite 2 blasters in this series are, and I'm gonna start with the Flyer, and I hinted at this already, but the fact that they included dart storage on this just makes it a way better product than the Scout Fire. This makes play with it so much more fun, and anytime that we're grabbing for these blasters to play inside, this is always the one that I personally am going for. I'm still disappointed that they didn't put more dart storage on the whole line, but if you see the Flyer and you're looking for something like this, this is the one that I would pick for a single shot blaster. And beyond that, despite the fact that it has at least one significant problem, which we're going to talk about, I really like the Rambler. It's the most solid feeling blaster in the line, and it requires the tiniest bit more advanced nerfing ability because you do need to learn how to count your ammo in the front of the blaster and pay attention to how many shots you have. But this is a great blaster to learn it with because it's very easy to check, it's very easy to refill, it's very easy to top up off the ground. Now the one issue with this is it seems like it was supposed to have a slam fire mechanism. For the uninitiated, slam fire is when you hold down the trigger and you pull on the priming grip and it fires each time you push the pump grip forward. And if you listen, this sound is the firing. But when I do this, it'll do it the first time, and after that it won't actually fire, it just rotates the drum. If I pull the trigger not all the way down, I can get it to slam fire. So thanks in part to discussions with Jolt King 627, I believe I know how to fix this problem, and I will be making a separate video on an easy way to fix this slam fire mechanism. But even without fixing that problem, I don't think the slam fire issue in this age group of play is that big of a deal, and I still think the Rambler is one of the best ones. Now there's also an aspect of this series that I think is a huge missed opportunity that I'm pretty disappointed about the more I think about it. My big question is, why did we just get blasters? Why didn't we get something cooler? Why didn't they put Elite Jr grips and pulls and power level on the Minecraft stuff? Why aren't we getting Dino Squad Jr? Kids already absolutely love these, and a 5-year-old would go nuts for this, and to be told that they could shoot it wherever they wanted in the house because it's at that safe power level. I know 4-year-olds who cannot prime this blaster, and so having one that was accessible to them is a huge deal. So with all that in mind, having gone through it and spent time letting kids play with it and playing with it with kids, do I still feel the same way that I did before? I think the Elite Junior line is a great concept. I think that the design language is playful and beautiful. It's a well thought out idea. I think the inclusions of the targets and the extra darts are really, really great and make it a complete product that is something you can hand to a kid that they can immediately have fun with. I think the performance level is on point. I think it hits soft enough that it's safe for everyone inside and isn't intimidating to kids who might be new to foam dart play. But it also shoots well enough that you can hit things across a large living room. So all told, I think they're great blasters. I definitely, largely speaking, recommend them for people to pick up for their kids. But I think that they could have been so much more, and I hope that they will be in the future. So that's my take on Nerf Elite Jr. Thanks to everybody that's been waiting for this to come out for a bit, but I really kind of wanted to make sure I got it right and spent enough time with the blasters that I wasn't missing anything or I wasn't missing any big problems. And each of these blasters and the pack on its own will get their own 1-minute reviews, so keep an eye on the shorts that come out of this channel for that information. Like and subscribe, all the YouTube stuff, you know how it is. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the field.